Hello and welcome to the Matching Mom Teens podcast. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Nicole. And we were kind of glad that you got to have a restful Mother's Day. Did you do anything special?
Oh, Mother's Day was actually really, really great this year. I think last year for my first Mother's Day, my expectations were a little high for somebody who had an almost 5-month old because it
Valid.
wasn't as fun as I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But this year I had a little bit more. I actually kind of had lowered expectations because we had just gone to Taylor Swift like the weekend before.
Yeah.
And that was a
Awesome.
huge, crazy weekend. And so I really didn't want to try to do some fancy brunch plans or try to do anything like that. And so I put some food in the crock pot overnight the night before
Yeah.
so that I didn't have to cook on Mother's Day, which was like a really great goal for myself. And then the weather was kind. And
That's
my
good.
husband made me a fancy latte. And we turned on the bubble machine and we got out the water table at like 7:30 in the morning so that we could drink our coffee in peace.
I like that. I like
And it
that.
was like a beautiful bubble-filled morning.
There we go. That's awesome. Yeah. So my son's
But
birthday
yours
was
was,
also Mother's Day.
yeah, it was
And
a big,
both
big, big day.
both he and I were sick. So we basically decided to order pizza. My husband's out of town. Our mom was here. And then we just had Rory with us. Of course, my stepson was with his mom. And so we just had a really, really, really casual day. I got excited because I thought at first that my husband was going to be able to call a little bit more because he was supposed to be so he's away with the military and he was supposed to kind of have his phone more. And then he ended up not being able to have his phone more. But we got to talk to him
Oh,
that evening, which was really nice. And of course, my son loved it. So, but for my son's birthday, we got him a water table. So we're officially sponsored by water tables this summer.
oh, I mean, I was not going to get a water table. And then a couple episodes back when Lori was on the podcast, after the podcast wrapped up, I was talking about to both of you about how I was trying to decide between like a little basketball goal maybe because my daughter's super into everything is ball. Everything is ball. Or if I should just bite the bullet and get a water table, but then I was like, do you always have to put them in a swimsuit and a swim diaper for the water table? And Lori was like, nah, girl, water table.
Yeah.
Water table, regular clothes, it's about to be so hot that they're going to dry as soon as they get wet.
Yeah. It's been a little devastating for us because it's been kind of cold here. Like
I
we've
know.
had a wind chill and I'm just like, this is not fun. Like you have a May birthday. I should be able to get you a water related thing and then you do it every day.
Oh, it was
Um,
like 60, 62 degrees the other morning, but we're in a big no phase right now. And I can handle a lot, but I tap out on the number of times I can hear the word no.
yeah, that's fair.
Um, like way more than any other like stressor I have had as a parent so far. Is the word no is just very triggering for me, I guess. And she shouts it in my face.
That's hard.
Um,
That's really, really, really hard.
and it's one of those things where like all the books say the more that you react, the more that it feeds it. Well, I must have reacted really poorly the first couple times because I mean, she will just scream
Well,
no, and then she'll just look at me
sometimes
like, "What are you gonna do about it?"
yeah, sometimes they just have that thing that they latch on to. Right now, it's get on the couch, have booby milk. 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 I honestly considered recording it just so I could send it to everyone I know and be like, how do I survive this phase? Because then I get on the couch and he doesn't want booby milk. He just wanted to tell me a story or sing a song or do the ABCs. Like it's just a lie to get my attention.
Well, I couldn't handle the no anymore, and it was like 62 degrees that day, and so
Warm enough.
I put I put warm water in the water table.
Yeah, that's what we've been
I
doing.
was like, "Is that fine?"
We've been taking like a picture of like really warm water out there.
And then she didn't say no, she just kept going, hot. And I was like, it's not hot, it's warm.
Yeah, it feels hot because you're used to ice cold water. This is
Oh,
what it
literally,
feels
we put
like to
ice
have
cubes in
real.
it because she's a big scooper dumper. She loves to dump, and that's what she says is dump. Um, and so we will put ice cubes in her water table so that she has something to like scoop because she doesn't like to scoop
Nice.
the little fish. She doesn't like to scoop little sponge pieces or any of the things the Pinterest moms do. She likes to scoop ice cubes.
I mean,
So
it's because she understands the importance of being able to just really get that ice in there for those bevies. Call
I
it
think
good.
she really likes cold water. I mean, I didn't like cold water until I was pregnant with her. And then I craved ice cold water. And I
My
still
son
only like ice cold water now.
My son will not touch anything if it is cold. In fact, sometimes you have to lie to him. Like we made popsicles because he has been sick and we wanted to hydrate him. We made popsicles out of his favorite type of juice, which happens to be what I drink every single day. Duh. And he took one lick, put it on the ground and said, "No, cold, cold, no." And I was like,
I don't
"Did
want a
you have
cold popsicle.
I was like, "Did you have to put it on the ground? Like, I want it." Like,
That's why
give
we
it
only make
back.
popsicles out of water around here because otherwise I will just find little puddles throughout the house and not know what they are.
Love that.
Um, but on top of, water tables, but it being cold and constant need for booby milk, but not real booby milk, and all of those things, it is May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month,
And in typical American fashion, we lumped maternal mental health in like it's just the same thing. I love
right?
that about things. Although in April, and this is incredibly important, this started, I guess, maybe last year, if not the year before, very recently, April 11th through 15th or 11th through 17th is Black maternal mental health awareness. And that's important because there are so many racial
Yeah, I
disparities disparities
disparity,
disparity
disparity.
there are massive different statistics and experiences. And in fact, I have a movie that you and I are going to watch together, and if anyone wants to, I'm going to find a link to it. But there is this really beautiful like short movie, it's like 20 minutes, called Toxic, a Black woman's story. And it is um it's a documentary type where they follow a pregnant woman and all of her interactions throughout her pregnancy and really tally up the nitty-gritty grossness that is racism in the medical field, um, and how it
I mean,
impacts.
it is heartbreaking, especially where I live, to see the statistics that have come out. One, I mean, I gave birth in 2021, and Arkansas, where I live, was ranked, I think, I want to say bottom three, maybe bottom state. We might have been 50th
I
for
don't know, it's really
maternal,
hard to beat like Mississippi has like
right?
been down
But
there for a
I mean, we
while.
were so low on maternal health, and so many mothers die or have catastrophic injuries or hemorrhages, which I hemorrhaged, like
Which
we had
fits.
so much going on. But to see those numbers is heartbreaking. But then when you take it and you divide it
Mhm.
and
Into the
take
reality of
black
what
women
those
out
people
and
look
you
like.
see that it's like 3 times, 5 times worse, I mean, it is heartbreaking. It makes you just want to scream
Mhm. It really does.
at the world that we live in 2023.
Well, I have some even more I have some more statistics for you that are going to make you scream because
Awesome. I'm ready.
so we all know that the global pandemic impacted mental health. But did you know that in 2022 there were some really big studies done on maternal mental health because they did kind of have a lot more of a captive audience, I think is how we'll say it. They had a lot more people engaging in research because there wasn't anything anyone could do really. And that sounds awful, but it's true. We also had a small baby boom, not anything near like original baby boomers, but still. Um, so
Because
prior
people
to
having to stay home meant that women got to stay home with their children.
shocking, I know. Isn't
Shocking.
it almost like that's good for, all of these people? Who is it? It's a billionaire who's all freaked out about dwindling birth rates. And I just want to be like, cool. Let's make it financially where people can stay home with their kids. Thanks. But anyways, so prior to the pandemic, um, 1 in 7 mothers tested positive or were screened positive for postpartum depression. Post pandemic, as
For the
in,
purpose of your statistics, we're going to assume that the screening is more than you good, bro?
well, okay, so here's the thing. That's if you are screened.
Right. Because I
So,
got you good, bro?
exactly. Well, and let me think. How did they say that it was screening?
I mean, there is an official quiz, but
Well, but it's not
it's
required by
wild.
all hospitals. It's not required by all
Not, and it's not
hospitals.
handled well. And
And so of those screened, um, in 2022, 1 in 3 mothers were positive for postpartum
ooh,
depression. So we went from 1 in 7 to 1 in 3. That is,
I went
first
from
off,
worse
bonkers.
to most worse, worser, worstest. I don't know. I guess it's not worstest because worstest would be 1 out of 1.
Valid.
It
Which,
might be. We don't know
again,
what the
might,
statistics are.
exactly, because nobody knows. Um, but so here's some things that will really upset you. First off, 100% of maternal mental health diagnoses can respond to treatment or intervention. That doesn't mean they can be completely taken care of, but they improve with early intervention and treatment. So
That's like
100%.
saying that a plant is probably going to grow if you water it and give it sunshine. Like, that seems like the
Exactly.
most obvious thing.
Exactly. But apparently that came out in the study in 2022. So yay, I guess we've known that for
Science is advancing so quickly.
right? Look at that. But the other thing is that of the 1 in 3, well, hang on, let me look. I want to say this correctly. Okay, no. So in September of 2022, a study was released from examinations of maternal death rates. How do you say that?
Mortality.
Mortality. Thank you. Maternal mortality rates from 2017 to 2019. So people who now have 5-year-olds to 4-year-olds, 6-year-olds to 4-year-olds,
Mm-hmm.
that 84% of deaths that occurred of mothers were mental health.
Oh, snap.
84% were mental health. And that includes any form of
So those
substance
are
abuse
mothers.
and suicide. But those are mothers within the 365 days of having their child. 84% of women who died, and we're saying women as people who own uteruses.
So, like, if you're
84%.
listening to this podcast and you are a mother and you still have ears to hear, you should consider yourself lucky to be alive based on that statistic.
No, it's not 84% of mothers who gave birth. It's 84% of deaths. So let's say there's 100. So let's
Okay.
say
But, I
there's
mean,
100 people who
still a
die.
shocking statistic. But I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
What?
So let's say in a particular hospital, 100 people died of complications related to pregnancy. 84% of those were mental health complications.
Whoa.
So that means what is 80? It's 16. So yeah, 16 of those are the actual things you hear about, which are HELLP
Like,
syndrome,
the,
preeclampsia,
yes.
hemorrhaging, that kind of stuff. Isn't
But
that bonkers?
the other 84 are mental health related. And you already said 100% of mental health stuff can show improvement with intervention.
Yeah. So think of
Is that
how
is that
low
medicinal intervention, or is that also talk therapy? Is that also
any
support? Is
form
that also
any form of
nighttime doulas? Is that, like sleep?
any form of intervention. And in fact, that's another thing that I have down here is first off, that number is a average, like we just said, if you split that up into um, races and incomes and all of that thing, then you
Obviously, it
get
gets worse
way
for
worse
some people.
numbers.
Yeah.
And that population, any population other than white women, uh, are also increasingly less likely to, I don't know how to say that, increasingly less likely to seek help. So like they are not getting help even though their numbers are even higher. Isn't that
Oh, they're not getting help because the help doesn't exist, or the insurance for the help doesn't exist, or the resources are not, or they just simply aren't supported in trying
all
to
of them?
get support, all of the above?
Yes, all of them.
Wow. Okay.
So it's just like a little crazy when
So
you
this
look
is a
at the number.
huge problem that is also somewhat fixable, but somehow
Well,
just not getting, I mean, it's not fixable because that
it's something
implies
that could be
broken in some
addressed
way,
and
but
have a, I mean, so when you consider the fact that the US has the highest maternal mortality rates for any comparable, like against any comparable country. So,
oh,
like
yeah.
in developed countries, we have the highest maternal mortality rates. And if you look at statistically what the percentage of maternal mortality is related to mental health, and then you know that 100% of mental health concerns around postpartum and pregnancy respond to treatment and early intervention, the answer is right there.
This is blowing my mind more than the pelvic floor therapy numbers.
Yeah, that's a
Which just
whole
for
other
just
thing.
for the sake of our listeners, like, I mean, I did pelvic floor therapy, you've done pelvic floor therapy, but
Still in
like
public
all
floor
of the
therapy.
like generations of people, yeah, you're still in pelvic floor therapy. Don't scare people,
Never gonna
okay?
graduate, never gonna
um,
graduate.
no, I just love her so much. I'm going to continue to go.
Exactly.
Um,
We're best friends.
but you know what I mean? Like I like just just to think of generations of women before our generation that lived with ongoing physical problems
Mhm.
due to pregnancy and birth and the load that your body takes on.
Yeah.
And
I
just
mean, just
basically to have happened
anecdotally,
across pelvic floor therapy on TikTok. And
yeah.
that's why I am not peeing myself when I laugh.
I was
It's
about
just
to say,
mind baffling to me.
anecdotally, my physical therapist and I do talk about like she sees all of these older women, like postmenopausal women, for issues that have gone on since they gave birth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my husband is 30, and his mom mentioned the other day that she still has no feeling in in like her stomach between her C-section scar and her belly button. And I've got like 70-80% of my feeling back. That may be all I ever get,
Yeah,
but
but
it's not a
like
huge
70 or
numb
80%
spot in my
better.
life.
Yeah. Huge numbers.
Um, It's weird. It's really weird. It's
Oh,
like having an
so
appendage always asleep. But anyways, like that is mind blowing in itself. But then this to be a bigger, more catastrophic issue, I would say. Like I'd rather pee myself than not make it through the first year of my child's life.
exactly.
But
Well, and
like,
then you think about we know in the mental health field, or at least I know in the mental health field, the impact that the loss of a parent has on a child and on a family. And then you're thinking
whoa,
these
yeah,
are
you think
not
about
all,
that.
and then you think these are not all first time mothers. So you have older children.
It multiplies
Also, I mean,
when
it
you
just
think about it that
multiplies and
way.
multiplies and multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. Um, and it's
Yeah,
just
because I mean, like a
way
mom of
longer.
four peeing herself, arguably not going to directly impact those children's lives and choices. But
Yeah.
like a mom of four no longer existing.
Yeah, losing her life to mental health struggles that are treatable is just insane. So,
Or like we say losing her life, obviously that is beyond worst case, but we're also talking about people who lose their jobs, people uh who like risk the trajectory of their careers having to take extended time off.
I
Like I
can't
am taking
imagine,
extended time off. You what?
I can't even imagine if we did the statistics on functionality, like
Right.
how
I'm
much
talking like
better.
functional. We're talking about marriages
Mhm.
being directly impacted.
Yeah,
Um
I'm waiting for someone to dig into those because they do say that like the year after having a baby is like one of the hardest in your relationship
Isn't it
with
like
your
one in
co-parent.
five couples divorce or something? One in five or one in six like
Yeah,
couples
it's
divorce
it's
in the
something
first
like
year?
And I have not been able to find any research. If anyone has a research article on this, I would love to read it. But there's not a lot of research on how mental health changes. I mean, we're just finally getting information on like dads and like fathers experiencing postpartum depression and things along those lines. But I haven't seen anyone really connecting those of like, is the conflict and destruction of your co-parenting relationship directly related to these horrific statistics around mental health? Um, and it's just, I mean, because if you look at, so in 2022, 1 in 3 mothers were screened positive for postpartum depression. Of that third of mothers, a fifth of those, so 20% of that third, and I don't know how to do math on that, they also reported self-harm, which is
Mm.
crazy because the year after you're having a baby, your body is already like just so messed up. It's
Going through it.
so insane what your body is actually experiencing and what you're trying to heal from. And I mean, I would argue that by your baby's first birthday, you are not still healed. Like you are just not.
No, I mean, like physically, but also like mentally.
Mentally and emotionally, all of it. Um, And so it's just like when you just really dig into it, it has become kind of this rabbit hole that I exist in. And that's because I was on. So another study came out in 2022, and then I'm going to stop citing studies.
I was about to say that's
But
so many studies for one
the
episode.
largest, oh, what sucks is these are only two. These are only two studies. One that has all the statistics in it. And then the second study, it was the largest study to date on 150,000 kids, long-term outcomes, that there is no effect of taking an antidepressant while you're pregnant. There is no negative
Oh,
impact.
like there's no negative impact on like
No,
fetuses
there is
in
no negative
utero.
impact. There's no higher reports of your child having mental health issues. There's no higher reports of them having medical issues. There's no higher reports of autism. That was a big red flag for a little while. Like there is nothing wrong with doctors letting mothers take antidepressants. I was on antidepressants during my
Yeah,
incredibly
but
high
they're
risk.
still not letting pregnant women eat deli meat, and they're more likely to get listeria from baby carrots too. So
Yeah, the deli meat one
I
did
still
scary
remember losing
for
my
a
mind over
long
that because
time.
the only like my biggest listeria scare was from a Sam's blueberry muffin.
I think about that every time I see prepackaged blueberry muffins. I'm like,
I
they
can't do it
almost
anymore.
took out
I
my.
make my blueberry muffins from scratch now. I have like just like so much anxiety about Sam's blueberry muffins now
Yeah,
and the big listeria scare because like I avoided all the things. I
me.
avoided the baby carrots. I avoided the deli meat. I didn't eat the sushi.
Meanwhile, I was allergic to the sun the last 2 months of my pregnancy. I was allergic to sunlight and broke out in hives. And
I
I'm
mean,
just
but you know
like,
what I mean? Like it's just
deli
so
meat
wild
to me.
how far behind science is on this stuff and the effect it's having on on mental health that is avoidable, in so many ways. And I mean, there's some great scientists, a lot of them are women out there that are like working very hard to combat some of this like ancient theology out there that's like about like what pregnant women can and can't do. Emily Oster is a huge voice for like informing parents, informing mothers on like what can and can't be done and what the research actually says and what the research like what the quality of that research is.
Yeah, because that's a big one as well. It's like, what is the
Right.
quality of
Like
the study?
what can be expanded and what can't be. Like as an engineer, as a scientist, like the research is not all research. Like it's not
I'm
all
just
the
going to
same.
attach my studies from today so that my fellow nerds can dig in because
Yes, I
I was
would definitely include them. But
just
like and then you've also just got like the the reality of it all. Like everybody's having different situations. You and I had completely different mental health struggles. We have completely different support systems.
yeah.
We have the same biology in some ways. But like we have the same biology and yes, I had a more traumatic C-section hemorrhage kind of birth, and you had more of this beautiful story.
Yeah, it's a
It's
beautiful story. It's
there's beauty in it.
no.
But you know what I mean? Like we land somewhere in the middle of the spectrum from like
Well,
definitely
and
for
I
sure these want to have 19 kids and can't have any more kind of vibes. But like, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Well, and
Like
I did not even
every
experience postpartum depression, which is billed as, now again, whether or not the statistics actually report this, but that is billed as the most prevalent postpartum illness. And I did not actually have postpartum depression. I had severe postpartum anxiety to the extent of like I would have like these significant panic attacks where like my husband would have to hold my baby and just let me like melt down. And I mean, like I had a panic attack to the point where I vomited one time because I just
like
couldn't
how far
tolerate.
out do you think your postpartum anxiety came?
Oh, I mean, he just turned 2 and I
Okay.
still have really
I think
significant
there's
intrusive anxiety, and I've been on medication. I've been in talk therapy this entire time. I am a mental health professional. Like, but I can tell you right now that there are moments because I've only spent 3 nights away from him. Because I am exclusively breastfeeding and, you know, just the way that I get, and I do wonder like what the impact would be if I was working outside of the home. Like if I would develop kind of a callous towards that and actually be healthier, or if it would make it worse. And I don't really know the answer to that. But there are moments where I cannot break out of the anxiety cycle until I see him. And
right.
that is like, I can't, like, I'm very lucky that he's never really far away necessarily. But even you saw me, you know, we woke up the morning after a really fun concert. I mean, a deluge of rain on night 3 of Taylor
Whoop,
Swift.
whoop.
But still, we woke up and at, you know, 7 a.m., 5 a.m., whatever time we woke up, I was like, okay, I'm ready to pack up and go. Like, we had planned on doing like
Yeah,
brunch.
you were like, you know what? I really don't need donuts from the one place I get them once a year. I'm just
Exactly.
gonna
We were gonna
go
go get
home
good
and see
food.
him.
We were gonna go get good food. We were going to, um, you know, we were gonna go take fun pictures and murals. I mean, I was excited to see you and your husband and your daughter. Like, I was kind of like in my head knowing like this was not part of the plan. Like, you don't have to rush home. He's completely fine, you know, like all of these things. And yet I was like, I had to get on the road even though the road was still 4 hours away from him. Like, the process of moving towards him made me feel a little bit better. um and that's just kind of crazy. I mean, not, I use the word crazy as a mental health professional, and I don't mean it at in the old way. I use it as like it's
You use it as you started using it when you were 8 years old, and you still use it.
yes. Yeah, I still use it in like the I'm a preteen in the early 2000s. Not as I am mocking anyone with mental illness because I myself have mental illness.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, it's one of
it's
those things where and you kind of touched on it, like you don't know if having a different routine would make things better or worse.
yeah.
Um, because I don't want to give the impression that 100% of people struggle with mental health issues, but 100% of these podcasters do.
Exactly.
Um,
2 out of 2.
2 out of 2. But you know, so I had really, really bad anxiety when I first brought my daughter home. Um, Partly because I had a traumatic birth, I had to have a blood transfusion, like all these things. But
Also a
I
brand
suffered,
new shiny parent.
yeah, you know, also
I
just
was at least
normal
not a brand
stuff
new shiny parent.
and normal stuff. And I had really, really bad anxiety when the sun went down, which is a very, very, very common anxiety that new parents have. They refer to it, my therapist and my doctor and my OB all referred to it as sundowners. So I'm going to
I have
assume that's a
not
fairly common
heard
term.
I have not heard that term in so long. That's so
Well,
crazy.
so it felt like I'm a video game person, okay? And like I love Zelda.
Yeah.
And when you're playing Zelda and the sun goes down,
Ooh.
all of a sudden all the bad guys turn into zombies or weird things that are a lot harder to kill, or the cactuses come alive and attack you. You know what I mean? Like there are so many
Yeah, things
things
happen
that
as
you weren't
the sun goes down.
expecting. And I just remember thinking like as the sun would go down, my stomach would kind of start to tighten and my heart would feel like it was kind of sinking. And I would sit up for the first 2 or 3 weeks of my child's life. I would sit up, like volunteer with my husband
Yeah.
to where I sat up almost all night with her in our living room with the windows open, waiting on the sun to come up.
Man.
And then at 5 in the morning, he would wake up and tag me out, and I would go sleep for a few hours at 5 in the morning, because at 5 in the morning, the sun would come up,
And you could
and I felt so much better.
yeah, that's
And that was just a few
and
weeks.
it's a real
And
thing
I
though.
have talked
People
to several new
experience.
moms who felt very similarly. I've also talked to moms who haven't. Like, I have some really, really good mom friends that I'm close to, and we have these kinds of conversations. And there are a couple of them that I'm like, dude, to trade places with you, to
Yeah.
trade brains
I would
for
actually
brains.
say for me, sometimes nights were my favorite time because I have other children in my home. I have other things going
So much more
on.
peaceful when people are
I
sleeping.
Well, I mean, like, to be true, like my husband was working from home at that time. We had people in and out. We have two other children. Like, it was one of those things where at night I felt like I had more control over my environment, and it did kind of lower my anxiety a little bit. And so it's so interesting how, and that's actually what I was going to bring up is there are several contributing factors that stick into mental health beyond just hormones. And I do think it's interesting because there's such a huge conversation around like like brain chemistry and hormones, and medication is a huge conversation in mental health. But there's also these things that you don't always think of. And I heard probably one of my favorites the other day, which was how safe your house is for your child at their age and what that does for your peace of mind. So, like, beyond safety proofing, do you also have habits around your house that help you feel safe if you need to quickly run to the bathroom? Do you practice things that help you feel secure? So, like, I have a 2-year old, but I also have a 6-year old. Do I keep heavy toys around that the 6-year old can play with that the 2-year old can't? No, those are special in his room toys. Have
Mm,
we spent since day one of potty training with him, knowing that we wanted to have another child in the home, close the bathroom door when you're done with the bathroom? Close the bathroom door when you're done with the bathroom so that I do not have to go to the bathroom and think, is the other downstairs bathroom open? Could he drown in the toilet? Like, there's all of these things of like, do you have a way in your house to give yourself peace of mind beyond safety?
right.
And I just thought that was kind of fascinating because I didn't think that it contributed much. But then one day my son found a piece of sidewalk chalk and drew over every single wall while I went to the bathroom. And I was like, that's something I didn't know caused me anxiety until today.
I mean, childproofing is it's where it's at.
It is where
Like
it's at. But there's
I
also
live for having at least one room completely childproof, especially now that I have a toddler. But
I miss
I
your
do remember, like,
your
in
baby.
those early weeks, my therapist, I did do talk therapy. I did not pursue medication. I instead pursued a life change, and simplified my life a little bit, and it has done wonders for my postpartum depression. Um, but in those first few weeks when I was really struggling with that like level of anxiety, especially, that was my therapist advice, was to simplify my life. She said, you are not, it is not a tree. Your life is not a tree, and you are not hacking off limbs. You are looking at it and looking at what doesn't serve you anymore, and how you can potentially expand as you grow. And you are just kind of like taking a moment to take inventory. And she's like, some people take inventory naturally while they're pregnant. Some people take inventory 2 years in when they just can't juggle these things anymore. Some people offload some of their inventory, but as mothers, mentally, We hear a lot about how like we don't look like ourselves or whatever. I think that's because a lot of mothers try to like hop, skip, and a jump and then fall in the hole that looks like what a mother should be.
Yeah.
And that's not ever going to work.
Well,
That might
sometimes
work if the hole that you fall in looks like what the desires of your true heart are,
yeah.
but the only way to like truly make a transition like that is to kind of shrink in some areas and expand in others, but to keep like the trunk of your tree steady and strong and in the same place.
So you
And
mean
so
like you have to
she
trim the dead roses off so that you can have more grow back more beautiful?
well, yeah, if you want to be weird about it.
It's called deadheading. You have to hack them off so you
It's
get more.
I don't think we can talk about mental health and call it deadheading.
That is a true gardening term. I will link an article. Don't fight me on this. You have to prune it back, and it's called deadheading when you cut off the dead roses
I
off the
want
rose.
like a I want like a vintage band tee that says deadheading and has like some
Like
roses on it.
got some roses with skulls in the middle, maybe, or
Yeah, exactly.
knives.
But you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah,
so
I do get
I
what
just
you're saying.
remember her saying that in order to battle my anxiety, and then later, as my postpartum depression, we realized that it was not about month five, about 5 months 5 to 8 is when my um, depression looked like, you know what, this isn't getting better, even with me going to work every day, even with me trusting who my child's with, even with my husband helping out as much as he can, like my daughter was thriving, things were going well, I was not thriving.
Yeah.
And as we would talk about things, she would just kind of say like, I need you to practice the areas of your life now as a mother in the ways that you can, and to become comfortable with letting go of things that no longer serve you, and become comfortable with the idea of expanding things that do. And
That makes sense.
that looked a lot like, in this season of life, maybe I don't feel like myself anymore when I try to make dinner every night. Like I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed, but I love to cook. I love to try new recipes.
Mhm.
So we cut it down to 2 nights a week.
Yeah. Well, so those are two of the factors, like we have the like safety proofing and peace of mind in your own home, but you also have societal expectations, you have mental load, which we've talked about on here, and then you add in statistically strained relationships, not just with your co-parent, but mother-in-laws, mothers, your own parents who want to see their grandchildren, your own children.
The
Um,
constant, just like kind but ignorant comments from your coworkers.
yep.
I
Or
work in a male
random
dominated
people in the
field.
grocery store.
Oh my
Like,
God. But I work in you don't even understand. I work in a male dominated field, and the number of 40 to 60-year-old men who obviously were not hands on in raising their children, but felt like, I came back to work after 12 weeks, and I'm very, very, very grateful for my 12 weeks. 12-week-olds don't sleep through the night.
no, they don't. And also,
And the number of people that would be like, yeah, how's she doing? You get good sleep last night? I'm like, no, I didn't get good sleep last night. I have a 12-week-old.
I know, well, and it's just those are unrealistic expectations around sleep. And I wish I could do like an entire I'll just do an episode by myself one day and you can just while I just go off on sleep
But
because
you know what
it's
I mean?
so
Like,
bad. And
the frustrating that is.
overexhaustion, sleep deprivation, and overstimulation would tied in with sleep deprivation. I mean, those are the other two mental health factors that are on this list. Like they loop in so tight with everything you do. And honestly, like the the component of sleep deprivation and overstimulation and strained relationships and the lack of village and the lack of support that we have mixed with the lack of professional support, lack of professional screenings, all of these things, mental load as well, I mean, all of these things are just setting moms across the world, but also moms in America, up for these horrible statistics, absolutely horrible statistics. And you and I can sit here and talk about it in the middle of a weekday because we happened to trip into lives where we can sort of kind of afford, well, and we can sort of kind of afford either working from home or not working full time right now, because the cost of childcare is so expensive that it would take my entire salary. So it's like,
Right.
I mean,
So
like,
even if the
sure.
the quote unquote cure or the treatment for getting you mentally back on track
Mhm.
is talk therapy,
Yeah.
how are you going to get to the talk therapist?
Yep.
Because I saw a therapist virtually with a baby on my lap.
I did as well. And
And
that
I am
is a reason.
very, very, very lucky to have been able to do that
I was about to say
and
that.
to have been able to adjust my work schedule to where I got off at 3:30 and the therapy office didn't close until 5. And so I took the 4 p.m. appointment and I would come home and my baby would be waking up from her nap and I would give her a bottle and a crinkle book and we would talk about very heavy things sitting in the rocking chair of my baby's room.
Yeah. My therapist used to just watch me breastfeed.
Yeah.
And thank goodness she's a wonderful person. And I so totally enjoyed having her around for the ride. But like, it was, I mean, there's this whole level of vulnerability there.
Well, and
That's
that's
just
not
like,
counting
okay.
like what would I have done if I was a bank teller
Oh, yeah.
and I
I
didn't get
mean,
off
I
until
think,
5?
well, I think all the time about women that I worked with in Nashville who were pregnant, and we did intensive in home services. You drove to your clients' houses, and we only had 6 weeks of maternity leave. So nearly every person I know who got pregnant in that job had to leave the job, because at 6 weeks, you first off cannot be driving all over creation working 10-hour days, which was essentially what we were doing. But
Right.
also just like how your body is healing. I mean, like, you can't be in a car for, I mean, I literally at that job ate 3 meals a day in my car. I spent
I know.
up
I
to
bought you a
4
thermos so
hours.
you could eat hot food.
I know, it was really good. I let Rory borrow that thermos sometimes. We call it the blue bullet.
The
Um,
blue bullet.
but or a pod. It does look like a pill or like a little bean pod.
Yeah.
It's very cute. But and I only ever tell people that your husband gave it for me because it's my favorite
Oh,
gift he ever gave me.
well, I mean, I helped.
He gets a lot of credit for it. I don't know why he gets a lot of credit for it, but it is real.
I mean, he did pick it out, so but I helped.
And well, and you filled it with food that first day. So that's
Yeah.
really the combined
You
gift.
never give anybody an empty dish. Karma will get you.
That is true. But it's just one of those things, and like the reason
But
that I
can you
wanted to talk
imagine?
about. Oh, go ahead.
Can you imagine those women who aren't able, like the job that they're in is not a job that they can return to after they're pregnant. So the mental load and the mental health stress of having to start a new job
Oh yeah.
with new coworkers, with a new boss, with new
I mean,
expectations, freshly postpartum as well. Like, which is worse?
I gave birth on May 14th, and on April 23rd, 3 weeks before I gave birth, I took my certification exam to switch career fields. And even that feels so much more privileged than all of these other situations that I know about where you get fired for taking maternity leave, or you're just done and
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have to work anymore, or you see horrible things on social media all the time of like the back of a McDonald's with a baby in a carrier, or people doing their jobs, which is totally just amazing, but like people doing their jobs with their child in a carrier on their back. Like, it's just super unrealistic, and the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because not only is it not working in our society for anyone, as two white women, we can say that. It's not working for us, it's not working for anyone around here. But in 2022, do you want to know what was released to provide us all with the support we need finally? Um we got our first maternal mental health hotline in America. First one,
In
20.
2022.
You know,
Sweet. That's
it
timely.
took that long, and it's I'm gonna link it, but it's literally 833 9, and then help for the number 4 moms. And what bothers me about that, and the reason that I wanted to talk to you about this today, is that I am a mental health professional who works in the field of children and families. I work with parents all the time. And yes, it's only, halfway through 2023, but I did not know about this hotline. I'm a mother of 3. I'm, a sister to a mother. I know so many moms. Like, I know moms, I know parents, professionally and personally, and I had never heard of the launch of this hotline. And that's kind of crazy. And also, we just got 988, which is the mental health hotline. It's the mental health version of 911.
Right.
Um, but it's just a little wild that those things are just now happening. Like, I'm grateful for them, and I'm
Right. Like,
glad that
it's
they are
good
options
that they're
now.
happening.
But it's sad that I saw this maternal mental health hotline and thought, "Oh wow, we didn't have one of those before. I never would have thought about that." And it's like, even in my field, I never would have been like, well, why don't we have someone that we can call for these things? Because we're all so used to just accepting either you have a village or you don't. You go it alone or you don't. You have a co parent or you don't. Like, we just accept what is happening and
Mhm.
look at the statistics later. And then we look at the
Well,
statistics and go, oh my gosh, that's awful. But there's not a lot of real action. And so I am kind of glad to see this, but it's just wild.
I'm kind of glad for this conversation today because, like, yeah, you see the statistics or whatever, but like, how many people out there, how many women out there, how many mothers out there, like, just feel like it's a very specific set of circumstances that has led to where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be the case. You know, terrible things can happen. I truly feel like my risk for postpartum depression skyrocketed because we had the death of 2 family members when my daughter was 6 weeks old.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, at
That's
that, the weeks between week 3 and week 6, my daughter's lives were some of the best of my life. I
yeah.
look back at the pictures from those weeks specifically, and I was out of the major anxiety. I was really, really feeling good. I was starting pelvic floor physical therapy. And so physically, I was hopeful that I was going to feel better. And then 2 major deaths in 10 days. And so, like, when I think about it, a lot of times I'm like, well, if that hadn't happened, but the statistics aren't that.
Yeah. The
The
statistics
statistics
are
aren't
just the data.
that
And
if you have these other, like, in the health field, don't they call them like comorbidities or whatever?
yeah.
Like, it's the statistics aren't if this, then you're at this risk. The statistics are you're just at this risk.
Well, and statistics without context are dangerous. But I also
Yes.
believe that in the world of parenting and in the world of uterus havers, pregnancy havers, um, oftentimes there is too much context. Like you said, everyone goes, okay, well, this is my individual problem. This is my
Right.
individual thing. Whereas in past societies, um, pregnancy wasn't a walk alone situation. Postpartum wasn't a walk alone situation. We did have, and not to get all like woohoo about it, but it's like we did grow up seeing births. We did grow up seeing different generations living in the same household or in the same area and seeing how different people parent. And, when you saw your aunt or uncle parent your cousin, you went, oh, okay, maybe I don't want to parent like that. Or, oh, I really like that. I'm going to figure out how they did that. It wasn't this just very stark divide of you either parent the way your parents parented or you read thousands of hours of research to figure out how you want to parent. Um,
Right.
or you talk to your best friend and you don't agree with everything she's doing, but it doesn't seem that bad because you don't have time to read all the books. Like, it's just really interesting that we're seeing that. and a kind of a resurgence of this desire to share maternal stories, at the same time that we're also seeing the true truth of the true truth. We're seeing the black and white data of the current situation is not working.
Right. So, like, support was on a downslope, mental health is on a downslope, and now they've both hit rock bottom. And it's kind of up to, like, our generation of mothers, in a way, to sort out what's left at rock bottom and how to rebuild.
Well,
And so I am thankful for things like the hotline. I am thankful for conversations and things like this. For I'm hoping that, America is moving forward toward a better horizon for maternal mental health and mental health in general.
yeah.
But for now, for the women in the trenches, it's sometimes the message is just that you're not alone.
Yeah. And I mean that is the only message that can be provided, because the truth is that these studies, see, it's kind of weird in my experience in the psychology field. When you see a really recent study, it's exciting because it's new data and you feel like it's very relevant, but you also don't know you don't know what's going to happen next. And so having this hotline come out in um 2022, having 988 come out as the national the 911 for mental health, having these new statistics come out in September of 2022, we don't actually know if providers will be able to take this, if America at large will be able to take this information and change things with it. It's just too new. And so the conversation has to be right now, like, you're not alone. And as awareness is raised, perhaps changes can follow. And
But we know that changes can happen and providers don't have to make drastic changes because, like you said at the beginning, like, any improvement can happen with treatment. And there are medications, there is talk therapy, there is support, there are some options
yeah,
for women, and networks of mothers making mom friends, like reaching out for help when you need it without shame. Those are all steps that can be taken that can show improvement. Like,
I
we may not be able to get um, the postpartum depression rate or the postpartum anxiety rate or the postpartum OCD rate or any of those things down to zero, but we can stop the majority of the tidal wave,
yeah, we
or
can
half
chip
the
away
tidal
at
wave,
the
or a third of the
mortality
tidal wave.
of it. We
You can
may not,
what?
well, so we may not be able to stop the rates of, actual depression and mental health concerns, but maybe we can chip away at the statistic of lives lost. And I think that would be the biggest goal is, like they said, it's 100% of these diagnoses respond to treatment.
Are you saying we can flatten the curve? Because I think people are going to have some PTSD regarding that. I don't know that we should say we can flatten the curve. I think we can come up with something else, like dull the
We
knife or something.
we can how do I say this? We can put sprinkles on the cupcake of sadness.
we can pick the sprinkles off the cupcake.
There we go. We can kill the flies in the kitchen.
One by one.
If you've ever had fruit flies in a banana, you understand my statistic. Like,
Ew.
take out as many as you can.
On
But
that
they're still there.
disgusting note. But you know what I mean? Like maybe it's not that women supporting women and reaching out for mental health and stuff like that can be the cure all, because we do not live in a country right now that really has the systems in place. But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we give up on the fight.
Yeah. You still try. You still try.
Good.
You still look at every other mom and say, hey, you're a good mom.
You
Because
still
that
look at
statement
moms at
matters.
the museum and are honest with them when they say, "Hey, how are you today?" Or, "Woo,
Hmm.
what a morning." Like,
Yeah.
I
For
mean,
real.
Like I have heard the word no so many times this week, and I said that to a mom at the museum, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I know." And just that little interaction makes the world a little bit smaller,
Yeah,
and maybe can improve some statistics. And
I hope
also, so can reminding each other, you're a good mom.
so. Are you?